keep it real with ya.
Happy Sunday, everybody. It's me, Minu, back with another video. I was supposed to talk about this topic like 2 months ago, but then I talked about other stuff. And even now, I don't want to talk about this, but I feel like I need to talk about it. What do you want, Morticia? What do you want? You want to sit in my lap? This is why my allergies are bad. Morticia, move your booty. Thank you. All right. That's what I was saying. I low-key don't even feel like talking about it. And if it seems like I don't have like the energy or the passion behind what I'm saying, it's not because I don't care. It's more because I started a new medication that is kind of making me really calm. So it's kind of hard for me to be like, you know, like I usually am. And if you're wondering what shirt I'm wearing, it's the same. You've seen it before. I forget her name, but the chick from Uzumaki. I don't know. I just felt like this shirt represents how I feel because it's got the big hole in her head. And I feel like it's got a big hole in my head. But that's because of the new meds and how they've been doing me. But I wanted to talk today. I don't want to talk today. But I'm going to talk today about scam jobs. And also talk a bit about my mom and the scam job that she ended up going to. Because I think it really perfectly encapsulates what you're not supposed to do when you getting a job or looking for a job. A lot of my friends, though, have been getting jobs, and I'm so happy for them. I know what it's like to be, like, struggling, trying to find a job, and struggling with your money, and trying to figure out, like, where you're going to go in your life. Are you going to have to move back in with your parents, or you already living with your parents, you want to move out? So, like, I understand that struggle so much that when I see my friends getting jobs, even if it's just, like, they working at McDonald's, I'm, like, super happy because I'm, like, even if you making minimum wage, which we all know minimum wage ain't enough, but if you go from making $0 an hour to $7.25, it still is a big change for you. Morticia. Sorry, y'all. So Morticia likely has a tapeworm, and it's why she's going crazy trying to get my attention because she wants me to feed her like she ain't already been fed. And she ain't already about to get fed again today because her and Sadie are on like a 3-day regimen with feeding. So every time I get up to walk somewhere, she like tries to run in between my legs and I keep accidentally kicking her. And it's a lot. It's stressful. I don't like kicking cats. I'm not a cat kicker. I'm a shove you out the way with my foot person, but I'm not a I'm a kick you type of person. That's just, I don't think that's right. But anyway, I want to talk about scam jobs. So let's talk about scam jobs. So the little background on my mom is that she is a narcissist and she's a covert narcissist. And so she does this whole thing where she's like, I am so weak and vulnerable and soft that I need people to do things for me. So, and I ain't talked to her probably 2 weeks now, which is great, but I haven't talked to her recently. And one of the reasons why I stopped talking to her for a while at first was because of this situation. So she's been unemployed since 2019. So she was unemployed December 2019, right before everything happened with the pandemic. And she knew she was going to be unemployed several months in advance because of the fact that the company was closing. So they told everybody that you're going to lose your job because we're closing. So she knew that, she didn't look for another job, decided just to be, you know, use that as an opportunity to make herself look really sad and victimized and like, woe is me, you know, typical covert narcissist stuff. But she did not want a job. She did not look for a job. She stayed on unemployment as long as possible. She did everything she could to try and take money from her own kids and her own grandkids so that she could get some money instead of having to get a job. Those of you with narcissistic parents, you already know what I'm talking about. So one of the things that she did with me, because I'm not giving her shit, but she preyed on this part of me that likes to help people. Do I even like to help people? Honestly, I'm starting to wonder if I even like to help people or it's just something that I do now because I've had a parent who's always demanded that I help them and fix their problems. But that's neither here nor there. I like to help people. I like to help people with things that I learned. I like to share what I learned about resumes and job hunting and all of that stuff. So I do that. So she reached out to me multiple times. Mostly this year. During 2020, she didn't really, because she was like, I'm just gonna be on unemployment. Like, why would I get a job? Like, no, I'm gonna be on unemployment and I'm gonna get this unemployment. Now the unemployment's running out. The only reason it didn't run out sooner for her, because it has been like a year and a half. The only reason it didn't run out sooner for her was because of all the COVID bills that they passed, extending unemployment and increasing the amount. But now it's about time that it runs out for her. And she don't like that. She's kind of like flailing, trying to be like, first she was like flailing, like, I need to get a job, I need to get a job. Then she was like, no, they need to give me more employment. Then she was like, no, my kids need to give me money. And then she went back to, I need to get a job. So I helped her with her resume multiple times. It was done awfully. Like, when I tell you her resume was a PNG, I don't even know where the PNG came from, but it was a PNG that listed everything she'd done at her job in the past 20 years, all the way down to when she was putting papers in binders. It's not important to put on your resume. So I spent like forever on the phone with her, first trying to convince her that her resume needs to be a PDF or a Word document and not a PNG, because that doesn't work when you're applying for jobs. So that was one thing that I had to convince her to do. She didn't do it, but I had to, try to convince her to do it. She didn't listen to any of my advice. Then it was, her making me like sit on the phone with her while she read out all these job descriptions so that I could tell her what the job meant and whether or not she should apply for the job. Didn't really matter. She didn't apply to anything anyway. Then she had job interviews. I helped her with the job interviews, and didn't really matter. She did what she wanted to do anyway. And then even after it seemed like she was going to get the job, she decided that I don't really like these people as much as I thought I liked them, and didn't really pursue actually trying to get the job. But fast forward to, I say a month, maybe 2 months ago at this point, this year's really flying by. She's on ZipRecruiter looking for jobs. Now, I told her multiple times not to go on ZipRecruiter looking for jobs, and I will explain why in a minute. But basically, ZipRecruiter, anybody can post a job on ZipRecruiter, including many scam companies that will lie to you about how much they pay to get you to apply to them and give them your contact information so that they can send you spam emails. So, if you're going to look for a job, if you're going to look for a job, do it on places like Indeed or LinkedIn, where they do like there's some kind of quality control there. And I don't even wrong. I applied to a scam job on Indeed, and then I found out later they was like, actually, this is a scam job. We're removing them from Indeed. Indeed checks their shit. LinkedIn checks their shit. ZipRecruiter does not check their shit. So she kept looking for jobs on ZipRecruiter, because it was like, either look for jobs on ZipRecruiter or look for jobs on the unemployment website, which both websites is trash jobs. The jobs on the unemployment website is like Wendy's. It's not really something for someone who has a house and a disabled partner to take care of. You're not really wanting to look for a minimum wage job. And I would tell her at best, to go for like an admin position, because those tend to take older Black women, and it's not that hard to do an admin position, whether you're like an assistant in an office or you're like helping someone schedule stuff. It's not that hard. You kind of know how to answer the phone and stuff like that. And I knew one admin who's the age of my mom, who she wrote all her person stuff out in a physical planner. Like, she didn't even do like calendars on Outlook. She wrote that shit down. So it's definitely an easier job to get for older people, and it doesn't pay $7.25. It pays usually around, depending on who you're working for, it pay like $13 an hour, which is fine. I mean, coming from her who made $0 an hour, I don't think that she could be complaining. But yeah, so I tried to steer her towards that. She didn't care. She ain't listen to me. And then she was looking at all these jobs that she wasn't qualified for. And then she was always looking for jobs on ZipRecruiter. I told her multiple times, stay off ZipRecruiter. She didn't want to listen to me. Because here's what ZipRecruiter does. What they lead in with is they give you a number, right? They'll say entry-level job, $50,000 to $100,000 starting salary or whatever. And they'll start with that to bring you in. And then the job posting might not actually have a lot of information about it. It'll just kind of be like, great job, great opportunity for people with gaps in their resume, great opportunity for recent college grads, great opportunity for, you know, older people and super young people, people with a lot of experience, people with no experience. Like, they throw all of that stuff out there. And companies usually are a lot more, real companies are usually a lot more picky about what they want. So they never really start their job postings with, we'll give you $100,000 to start with no experience. I've never seen a real company that actually says that. So ZipRecruiter does that. And a lot of times a company won't even list a salary, and ZipRecruiter will make up one because they want you to apply to the job. So ZipRecruiter will see the job title and they'll say, yeah, 50, 60, $60,000. Yeah, throw that on there. And they'll just throw it on there. The job doesn't actually say they'll pay you that, but ZipRecruiter will throw that on there to get you to apply to the job. And then also ZipRecruiter is really big on taking your personal information, like your cell phone number and your email address, and sending you a bunch of bullshit. So the more they can get you to click on things and apply to jobs, the easier it is for them to get access to all your contact information and sell it to these third parties. I don't know if they're selling it for real, but I mean, come on. Every other company's doing it. Why wouldn't they? Whew, these meds. They're really getting me. And you can tell from last week and this week. Last week I was sad. This week I'm happy, and I still feel like I look the same in my face. But yeah, so ZipRecruiter would do that, and I would tell her over and over again, don't use ZipRecruiter. And she'll be like, but they're on the unemployment website. And I'm like, I don't care. Anybody can be on the unemployment website because it's the unemployment website. They want you to have access to as many jobs as possible. They're not going to do a lot of quality control. Especially because they just need you to apply to jobs in order to get your unemployment. So she was doing that over and over again. And then she sends me this job. And the job didn't make no damn sense, but it was like promising to pay a lot of money or whatever. And she sends me like the job posting and the job details. And it just wasn't very clear about what the job actually did. Because on one hand, it sounded like they made it trying to seem like you were like an admin, but then they also tried to make it seem like you were a salesperson. But then they also said, well, you're not a salesperson, but you're a coordinator. And I'm like, a coordinator of what? And it was basically talking about helping veterans and older people get access to insurance. And so it kind of tried to make it in the frame of like, you're actually advising them or guiding them on the best options. But I was just getting a lot of red flags from this, because I was just getting a lot of red flags when I was reading it, because it just wasn't very clear about exactly what you were doing. And, you know, and it said, I think it said it paid like $11 an hour or something, which I'm like, I guess it's realistic for them to actually say a low number. But I felt like something about the job didn't make any sense. And most jobs, they'll tell you, they'll be like, look, you are HR generalist. It is your responsibility to know all the SHRM stuff, to know all the local and federal state policies, to know job labor laws, like they'll throw all of that out there to you because they want to make sure they get somebody who knows what the job is. But this kind of job seemed like they just wanted to get somebody. And that was what kind of threw me off. That was what was tingling in the back of my amygdala, was getting all like, something about this ain't right. And I told her, I was like, what does this job do? Because I read the job description and I still don't know. And she was saying like, oh, you know, you're supporting elderly people and veterans and like giving them guidance on like their insurance policies and stuff. And I was like, what in your job history says you'll be good at guiding or educating people on insurance policies? And she was like, well, it says this is a good job for people with little experience or people with gaps in their resume. And I was like, why would a job where you need to have knowledge of different insurance policies, which insurance is very difficult to learn, to understand, why would a job like that require you to have no experience and gaps in your resume and be okay with you not having a college degree, and the last time you was in school was like over 30 years ago? Does that make any sense to y'all? Because it didn't make no sense to me. And I was like, where is this job? And she said, it's on ZipRecruiter. And I said, what the fuck I tell you about being on ZipRecruiter? Get off of ZipRecruiter. I told you. And she was like, but it's on unemployment. I don't give a fuck. This job sounds sketchy as fuck. It sounds like an MLM. It sounds like you're trying to sell something. You do not need to be in a job where you're doing sales. You are not a salesperson. You are a person who has worked in warehouses and factories and back offices. You don't sell things. And you certainly don't sell things that you have no education or experience in, like insurance. So I said, don't do it. And she's like, well, I already applied and I have an interview with them. And I was like, why the fuck you asked me about my opinion if you already applied and have an interview set up with them? I don't know why I'm trying to make sense out of nonsense. But the point is, she was like, I already have an interview with them. I said, okay, go to the interview. And if you go to the interview and they tell you you're going to be selling stuff, tell them, no, thank you. I don't want this job. And walk away. This is not a situation where you can be like, I'll take whatever I can take. You don't want to be in a MLM. And so I asked her also, I said, did you research the job? And she was like, yeah, I looked them up. And I said, what did you find? She said, she gave me a screenshot of her Google search history. I said, yeah, you searched the name. Because it said, it also was like, they had the name of like a law office. And I was like, it's a law office, but they sell insurance to elderly people. Does that make any sense to y'all? Because it don't make no sense to me. But she was like saying, well, I looked it up and here's the result. So she took it as, I searched the name of the company and they had results on Google. So therefore it's a real company. And I was like, that's not what that means. So I searched the name of the company. When I looked on Google Maps, they had a location, but it wasn't an official location. So you know when you are looking online and you're looking on Google Maps and you're trying to find a place and the place is, you look at the street view and the street view comes up and it's just a street. And you look around and all you see is a street and you see like trees. Or you look at a place and it's just a house. So this place was on like a main street and it was in like a suite of one of our big buildings. So there's a lot of big buildings in my city where you could just rent out the office space. So it was just a big building where people rent out office space. And I was like, could be legit, could not. Now, I do think it's a little strange that when you searched it, it just came up someone's name and not, you know, like the business, like this is the name of the business and this is the phone number. This is our website. Here's reviews of people who've used us. Here's pictures. Like nothing came up other than this is a person's name at a office suite. So I was like, number 2 problem. Then she tried to make it seem like there was a guy on LinkedIn who was the leader of the business. So I looked at this guy's LinkedIn profile. Just because he has the same last name as the business does not necessarily mean that he's connected to that business. So when I looked him up and I actually looked at his LinkedIn profile, nothing in his LinkedIn profile was connected to this business. And I was like, okay, strike 3. Then I Google searched the business even more. And the only thing that I found under that business's exact name was the exact same job postings, but on multiple job sites. And that's strike 4 or strike 5. And because it's probably not a real company if the only place you can find the company's name is on job postings on job sites. Like, I know people who just be like, well, I don't know people, but I kind of sort of know of people who all they do is like, they do shit out their home. Like, they cook out of their home, or like one lady does massages out of her home. They have a Google Maps page where it's like, yes, a picture of their house, but it's like the name of their company. There's a phone number. There's a website link. Even if that website takes you to Facebook, it's a website link and you can put reviews of the company. There was nothing on this company that posted this. So I was like, this is a fake company. And so once I got past all the job postings, I did find some articles where people were like, is this company an MLM? And a lot of people were saying it's kind of an MLM, but it was an MLM light. You know what I mean? Like, so it was an MLM, but just now getting started. You know, it was a baby MLM. There we go. And so like, yeah, the whole thing was to sell things to people. But if you really want to make money, you have to get other people to work under you and all of that stuff. But it wasn't a large company like Amway or a doTERRA or like something where it's a household name at this point. It was just like these guys over here. And I had ran into these types of companies before, in my city specifically, where the whole thing was like, we sell insurance to poor, disenfranchised people. Anybody else amygdala firing? Like, I know exactly what that is. I know exactly what they're doing. Or maybe it's the black in me, where it's just like, I know exactly what you're doing. Any business that they exclusively go after poor and disenfranchised people, I know exactly what you're doing. That's why I don't do Cash App. I'm sorry. I know some of y'all might be offended by that. I don't do Cash App because they exclusively go after poor black people, and I don't fuck with that. But yeah, so I told her, I was like, this company looks fake. And I even had a friend who knows better, who thought that the company was real at first. And then I was like, I did some deeper research and I saw that it isn't. Or technically it's a company, but it's a baby MLM. You don't want to fuck with those. So she goes to the interview and she comes back and she tells me how the interview went. And I'm like, how'd the interview go? And she was like, well, there was 2 people there and they were talking, but nobody was responding to me in the chat. And like, I was trying to talk to them and no one was responding to me. I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, well, it was on the computer. And I was like, oh, it was a virtual interview? You got something to say, Morticia? No. And I was like, oh, it was like a virtual interview. Okay. And it was just you and these 2 people. And she was like, nah, it was a bunch of us. But like, they were saying like the 2 people who was like talking, they were saying that their cameras didn't work. So everybody's cameras were off because their cameras didn't work. And then they were just talking, but I was trying to like say stuff in the chat and nobody was responding to me in the chat. And then I was trying to talk through the microphone, but nobody was answering me, like they couldn't hear me. So I just got off and I was like, wait a minute. So this wasn't an interview? And she was like, yeah, it was an interview. And then they want you to fill out a survey. And once you fill out the survey, she was like, yeah, it was an interview and they tell you about the company and what the company do. And they want you to fill out a survey. And then once you fill out the survey, you can get selected for like a one-on-one, like an in-person interview. And I was like, so you went to a webinar? Like, why would you do a survey? What is the survey about that would make it so that you could get a job? Like, that makes no sense to me. That doesn't sound like a regular company practices. Like, even with the scam companies that I've dealt with in the past, I still had face-to-face interviews, or at the very least, I had like a video call where we could see each other. So the fact that it was like, you show up for an interview, first of all, it's not an interview if there's multiple people there who are also applying for the job. It's on a Zoom call. The people who are supposed to be interviewing you, their cameras mysteriously don't work. So they just start talking and presenting a PowerPoint about why the company is great. And then you're supposed to do a survey, which I don't know, asks you if you still want the job. I don't understand. And then they determine based off the survey if you can get an interview, like a real interview. And none of this stuff made sense to me. And so she left from there, and I was just like, this is why I tell you not to look for jobs on ZipRecruiter, because a lot of them are scams, especially when they don't fully tell you what it is. And then I was like, did you even figure out what the job was? And she was like, yeah, it does look like I'm gonna be selling insurance plans to be. And I was like, what did I say? There's so many red flags in this situation that you should have caught on to. The fact that the job description didn't make no damn sense. The fact that you couldn't find any reliable source on this company to figure out if they were a real company or not. The fact that everything you saw on the company was either the exact same job posting in multiple places or articles talking about them being a scam, MLM. The fact that the location for the company, the possible location for the company that they gave, was just one of those generic office buildings in the city, and it didn't even have the name of the company when you searched up that address, nor did it have a phone number or a website or anything that would allow you to check the credentials of this place. And then also, obviously you couldn't find them on the Better Business Bureau. But There's so many red flags there that tell you that this company isn't legit. And then you show up for the interview, and it's not an interview, it's a webinar where they just tell you about how great the company is and then ask you to do a survey so that they can get more information out of you probably, and then select you for a one-on-one interview, which I can already guess what that one-on-one interview is going to be like. It's likely going to be, you know, them just promising you how great the job's going to be for you, and then you either saying yes or no. The thing about scam companies is that they don't usually reject people. They give you the opportunity to reject them, because at the end of the day, they just want people in there. So as long as you keep saying yes to everything, they're not going to reject you. And it's the same with MLMs. As long as you keep saying yes to everything, they're not going to reject you. They're just going to tell you about how great it's going to be if you take the job. So I got really, really pissed off at her, because I told her, I was like, you didn't listen to me. I told you over and over again to do your research. You didn't do research. You did a Google search, and you didn't even click on any of the links that came up when you did this Google search. You just assumed that because Google yielded results that meant the company was legit, which you can search anything on Google and it will yield results. It will yield thousands of results because it's Google. But you did not listen to me when I told you to do deeper research, and you did not listen to me when I told you to beware of jobs on ZipRecruiter, and you also did not listen to me when I told you that it was likely this company was a scam because their job description made no sense to even someone like me who works in HR, who has worked in HR for a couple years now, who's seen lots of job postings, lots of job applications, and they don't look like that. They don't. The only jobs that look like that are scam jobs. Morticia, why do you insist on walking all over me? What are you looking at? Don't look at my camera. Don't look at my camera, look at yourself. Okay, so as I was saying, that really, really pissed me off. And she was like, I did listen to you. And I was like, obviously you didn't, because you went to this and you went all the way to the interview. You didn't listen to me. So I want to talk about that, because I think that that's a prime example of all the different red flags that come up when you are looking for a job that just should tell you that it's not a real job. I'm not even getting to the points when you can tell that it's a bad job, you know, with a toxic work culture and shit like that. I ain't even talking about that. That's not even, we're not even at that point yet. We still at fake jobs. That's where we are right now. And I want to talk about the reason that I was able to catch on to these things so soon is because I was unemployed in 2019 as well. I got a job before my mom lost her job, but I was unemployed in 2019 as well. And I was the victim of, I think, at least 3 scam jobs.